We're going to have a panel now. We're going to talk about partnership. So I'm going to ask Kevin, Charles, Cindy, and Andrew to come up and join me, and we're going to have a talk about why it's important not to go alone. You know, you've got to take a partner with you. There was supposed to be a kind of a Zelda-based joke in there somewhere, but clearly too tired after all the walking I did yesterday to follow that one through. So come on up, guys. So partnerships. I mean, this is really the point of what we want to try and talk about, and how we can make this as relevant as possible to everybody here. But each of us all have our particular interests. Although I do know that there's 3 people on this group that have either currently or previously had an involvement with a certain game engine. That's not deliberate, by the way. Let's start. Introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. For those that can't see on the camera, the room is absolutely packed right now, so I'll try to keep it short so we have enough time for questions. Andrew Burnbreyer, I'm with Uplift. We're a mobile games marketing platform. We've expanded beyond just gaming now, so we also do non-gaming, but we were born and bred in the gaming space. Happy to be here.
Thank you for taking time out of your lunch to come sit here and listen to our panel. My name is Cindy Yang. I do business development for Unity Ads. My sole purpose in life is to make developers money through putting in mobile video ads in your game.
My name is Charles McKeever. I'm the Director of Publisher Relations for Corona Labs. We offer a free 2D game engine, full SDK for, also we have a Corona Ads, which was just launched here recently for adding ads into your apps.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, I'm Kevin Robertson. I was at Unity for 5.5 years. I ran biz dev for North America on the core side up until January, and then recently came on with GameSparks, which is basically a back-end server-side engine.
Yes. So I mean, obviously this kind of group is divided into kind of getting your game promoted and making the game in the first place. And actually, you're perfectly positioned because now I know you do ads too. It's like perfectly down the middle. So I mean, let's start this end. You know, we're going to be making a game. We're going to be kind of creating something. Do we make it ourselves or do we use a partner? How do we start that process off? How should people out there start thinking about engaging with people like yourself on the back end, people like yourself in the engine? How should these guys engage with you? You want to start?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is just to consider that, you know, one of the things I like to say is, what is next gen? I don't think it's graphics. I don't think it's VR. To me, it's more about engaging. It's about cooperative. It's about multiplayer. It's about having competitive elements, having things in your game that keep people wanting to come back rather than just kill 3 minutes on your phone at the bus stop. And I think that we're seeing this a lot more. There's really great examples of you know, really extensive back-end systems made in games like Clash Royale. I think it's a great example of a game that's, you know, Supercell iterated, and they created an RTS that was super addictive, but most of that game is all back-end. It's all competitive. It's matchmaking. It's having systems built in that keep you coming back and knowing where you stand. Where am I in this league? Am I bronze? Am I silver? What items am I getting? What resources? What rewards? And all that stuff is engagement. That's stuff you have to keep powering after a game is launched. And I think that's a good way to start that.
I totally agree. I mean, I wrote a book called Games as a Service, so I kind of would think that. But it is really kind of, I think, core to me, which is this knowing how to build something that's simple and small and do it well, but then knowing how to build the support structure within it so that it can scale. I mean, obviously, when people are coming to you first, they're thinking about how to make the game.
Yeah, we see a lot of that, but I do agree that the interaction is very important, and how you engage the player, making them want to just open the app again, right? Because getting them to install it the first time is a challenge. Getting them to play it that first time is fairly easy after they installed it, but then getting them to come back again and again is important. And you know, Fun Run is a great example of a game that just, you know, gets you engaged in it, and then also is because it's multiplayer, it has that back end support. It makes it to where you want to play with your friends.
So we've got a need to be able to find the right tools and the right partners for that, and understanding that the next great thing is not just about making the game, but it's about the whole support. I think we then move forward and think about, well, how early should we start thinking about finding that audience? And so, you know, when we start talking to people, how early do we want to engage those guys, you know, in terms of getting them involved with companies like ourselves?
I think in any game, developing in any game, you want to just ask questions. Ask the right questions on terms of like, how do I build it from ground zero? But the most important thing is, how do I make money? 98% of people don't pay. I don't pay. I mean, I've played Clash Royale for so long. I'll probably spend $5 on a pack of gum before I spend $1 on like 80 gems, right? So you always want to ask those questions. And the reason why, like, I believe in ads, or whether it's video, banners, whatever it is it empowers developers to continue and make content, good content that can surface in the App Store. I love to play games, so that's why I'm trying to empower developers to be able to ask the right questions in the beginning, make sure they have the right content, build on the right platform, but to also have that longevity of keep going. And the only way they can keep going is if they're actually funded with money, which is my purpose.
And I think there's also an aspect of that which is about designing the game right,
Sure.
and so it works well.
Right along those lines, and you were saying, you know, ads are important. Certainly for the longevity of the developer who's trying to continue this as a permanent role. But I was talking with the developer of Get Me Bro out here on the floor here, and yesterday we were saying, you know, ads are intrusive unless the player opts into them.
Exactly.
And most of the time people don't want that ad pushed to them, but they will opt into it.
Well, I think the question that you asked was, when do you start deciding what your audience is, right? So I think when you're making the game, you already have an audience in mind, and that is around kind of the genre, right? So if you're making a core game, you're not really thinking about massive advertising because you don't really have enough users per se, right? So you're focusing more on monetization metrics and things that are going to engage someone and actually hook them. But on the flip side, if you're making a casual game, you're not going to make money through monetization, and you need ads from folks like us that are actually going to help propel that. So I think the early step is, okay, what is our audience? How do we monetize that audience? What is going to be the right way to do it? And then segmenting that audience around it too, so that you're not showing them ads when they're going to spend, but you're showing them ads up to a point where they're not going to leave the game. But I think you have to have that monetization in place, and that's probably the first thing that you're doing when you're building the game. I think there are a lot of times I've been asked, when do we think about monetization? And you have to think about monetization from the very beginning. So it's, okay, we have a cool idea for a game, sure, we scaffolding and we do the outline, and then it's, okay, where are our hooks going to be, and how are we going to make sure we can keep paying for the development and keep growing the game, and then you start going to the next step.
You know, going back to the audience building though portion of it, Laserdog out of Leeds in the UK, they do an excellent job of telling the story as they develop the game, and there's a lot of things that they'll do during the development cycle that weren't things that they even planned to do at the beginning, on the outset. To give you an example, Rob Allison from Laserdog, he actually took an old school Game Boy and hacked it so that he would have an audio out. Yeah. That way he could get a clean signal for the audio, and then he bought a MIDI module to put into the Game Boy, and he composed all the music for Hopiko on the Game Boy.
That's cool.
So, and during that process though, he took pictures and put them on Instagram. He shared all of that out, you know, and it was fun to watch, and people who were engaged with that were excited when the game came out.
I think that's really a kind of key part. Is again, you know, we're trying to focus on the kind of partnership side of it, but actually it's a wider piece than that, and it's about thinking about the audience in general. I mean, we could argue, and I think we had lots of arguments about this conversation about whether you start the design from the ad funding or the game funding or the upfront, or whether you work a way to make a systematic process.
But even in picking a platform though, a lot of developers ask that question right up front, right? They're looking for the pitfalls. They're trying to figure out how can I monetize this game before they even created it, right? And which can be a little frustrating for the engineers because they're like, well, you don't even know how to make the game yet. But people want to know how to monetize.
I think we all agree you got to make a good game first. But I don't think any one of us here wants to say like the silver bullet it is make a good game. Because like 3 or 4 years ago at these events, that was what everyone always said, was like, make a great game, and then it doesn't matter.
But
it's
no one
like,
would define what a great game was. I mean, come on.
No one starts out like, I'm going to make the worst game ever and just see what happens. Like, you always want to make something good, even if the intent is to make a very simple 8-bit single-finger game. You want it to be the best 8-bit single-finger game it is, right? So.
And one of the things, though, that can offset that is audience build before you get started, right? And some of that is counterintuitive because the developers are not necessarily camera front facing people, right? So pairing yourself with a partner or someone who can be charismatic and go out there and sell the thing, so to speak, beforehand is a good way to.
This is actually, you and I talked about this exact topic when we were in London together.
Oh, this is I think really the crux of it, and it's understanding that there's this pool of talent that you can get, whether it's from a partner or from an audience, and it's being able to know how to focus that correctly. And I think what we want these guys to be able to take away from them is what skills that takes. You know, what are you looking for in those partnerships? You know, is it just talent, or is it relationship? How well you get on with them? You know, is it about how much money you're going to get out of them? What's the core thing that you're going to start with? I think
it's like product, right? You always want to work with a good product that's sustainable. And for me, working with the right people, right? It's like you have a great product and you have great people. Those are two combinations where you're like comfortable there. But if you work with a product that's so-so, you're not sure the longevity, you don't know how it's going to be around, that creates extra worry. And then the worst case for me is like you put your blood, sweat, and tears in making a game, and you email this person for like a support question or just have questions to ask, and no response.
I have to fully agree with Cindy. I always tell my guys, there's actually 3 of them in the audience. Yeah, you're welcome, Cindy. I think you don't work with companies, you work with people. So it has to be someone, I mean, as much as it kind of sucks, like it has to be someone you like and someone that you would appreciate having a coffee with or sitting in the room with for an hour, right? And someone who does genuinely care about what you're doing. So even if it is somewhat of a lower quality product, people are going to spend more or take less if they actually like who they're interacting with.
But I think part of that is that person's got to bring something to the party. You know, they're going to bring some experience, some context, something that adds genuine value. And at the end of the day, we don't just buy from liking. We buy because of an expectation of future value.
You know, it's also like consulting, right? Because like if I'm a developer, this is my baby, and I want people to support me in my baby, whether it's emotional, whether it's product, whether it's ideas, connections, networking, whatever it may be. Like this panel, don't go it alone, right? Yeah. You want as much support as you can.
Yeah. Well, whether you're looking for a co-founder of a company or just a teammate, you know, for development of an app, you're looking for someone who almost has the opposite strength of you, right? You don't both need to go to that meeting. You don't both need to do that thing, right? You need to have complementary skill sets. Again, just to kind of go back to LaserDog, Rob can do the graphics. He can do the programming himself, but he teamed up with Simon. Because Simon does, you know, all the graphics, he does the game trailers, he does all those things like that, and then Rob can just focus just on the programming, and that's great. That works really well. And what's interesting is that when you look at across their social media, they're goofing off together at other things besides just sitting in front of the computer. So they really work well together. They like each other.
But it's interesting how you don't have to like each other for that to work. If you look at Rami and his business partner with Vlambeer, they're on record. They don't really like each other that much. Yeah, they just happen to work well.
I know a lot of married couples that are like that too. But you know, I don't know if I want to live that way.
Yeah, I'm not recommending that.
But when you're in a company, and okay, you don't have to like each other, but if you're at the same company, your end goal is the same.
And
external partners, your end goal is not the same.
Yeah, and I have run into people who start down that path and then end up not liking each other just because they spend so much time with each other talking about problems that the relationship suffers. And so the way to reinvigorate that is to, as you say, have a goal, a common goal that you can both then work toward, right? To refocus the partnership.
So Kevin, before I was interrupted, you were about to say something.
Well, I was going to say that it's important too to have a forward-facing, outgoing person, no matter what your studio is, because I come from most of the core side. A lot of the mobile is, or at least on the monetization side of things, and is very new to me. But the industry is super small, right? I mean, no matter where you're in, you go to every conference, it's all the same people. So if you have someone who can really relate to everybody, it's important to mix between mascot and public relations specialist. Is you have to have someone wear that hat, because again, it's so small. It's very rare that you find some success story out of the blue these days. It's not happening as much anymore.
I saw quite a fun talk. It was mixed in other areas, but it really focused on three things. You have a hacker, a hipster, and a hustler.
Yeah,
and it's a really nice kind of metaphor, isn't it? Think about it. And if you think of those sort of three talents, they're really kind of critical. I mean, I don't know what the finance guy would be in that, but there must be some finance guy there to stop them going mad. But does that make sense? I mean, so what role do we play in the partnership that helps support that? I mean, is it just the case that we're taking, say a game engine, we're taking away your need to have a team that's going to build you a game engine? That's a clear, obvious thing. With an ad company, we're providing you with a connection to an audience through, support. What are the key things?
Some of us are hustlers and hipsters.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure what I am.
You do wind up.
all three.
You do wind up seeing the same pattern over and over again. As you said, this is a small industry, and you do see the same things happening over and over again. That's picking a game engine, picking some sort of form of monetization, picking a way to promote, right? Either working with either a publisher or an independent consultant who can do promotion, or just whatever. That always comes back around, and a lot of times developers will work out the tool, they'll work out the ads, and then they'll forget about the promotion. So you can't forget that part.
Here's what I'd pick.
I was going to say, it feels dirty to a lot of game devs. I think that to get into the monetization stuff, I mean, you see a lot of traditional game devs go into mobile, and so I think you made a point that it's, you have to think about monetization from the get-go. But I wanted to talk on this. Sorry, I'm going back to that. But you also, I think that the customer base, the player base, is becoming more sophisticated. So, how do you incorporate monetization elements? How do you incorporate ways that don't feel like payment walls, don't feel like pay to win? And I think it's up to the designers and working with monetization and ad strategies. Just like I raise my hand to participate in an ad is a fairly new thing, but my daughter does it all the time, and it works great.
Sometimes it's got to be premium. I mean, that's the thing. I think we always want to think of these like crazy new ways to monetize, but if you make a really good game, sometimes I prefer to pay up front, because I know I'm not going to see ads. I know I get all the levels right away. I don't have walls. I get to engage as much or as little as I want, and sometimes it's a higher quality product. So it's okay to make a premium.
That's tough and mobile.
Okay.
I represent the other 98% who will not pay.
Yeah, but I mean, I totally get where you're coming from, and it is okay to make a game that's premium. And there are some game models which definitely go that way. But a lot of the time, I find anyway, that game designers find themselves making assumptions because of their heritage, working in other industries, or AAA, I'm thinking in particular, and they end up by default accidentally falling into a premium game when all they need to do is step back and say, hang on a minute, where's the repeatable bit? Where's the context loop? Where's the meta game? Oh, now I can make this a freemium game if I want to.
Two things. I want to address both sides here. One, you mentioned that the developers feel it's dirty or that sort of thing. Okay. I encourage them to think of it more as a responsibility. You've taken up this person's time. You have asked them to engage in this thing. You've invested them to invest their time in this game, and it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be something that you're going to improve on it. You're going to further their enjoyment in it, and so many people, I don't care if it's gaming industry or across other industries, say, I really don't want to charge for this, and I'm thinking, well, great, then you want to reach the 10 people that you can possibly support, right? Not the millions of people who should be enjoying your thing. And then the other part is that you said you were the other 98%. I don't know why we can't be the whole 100%. Why you can't charge for the game and put the ads in it and have the merchandise and have the all the other bits, right? Because monetization isn't just one thing.
I think having ads, people have that dirty word sensation to it, right? I think if you build it as part of the gameplay, why not make ads fun? Why not make it engaging? Make it part of the core game loop that everyone always talks about. You build it in from the very ground zero, and it becomes fun instead of something intrusive. I've seen so many developers go, oh, okay, we just want to wait 30 days, no ads turned on, let's see how the game does, and they reach this peak. And then all of a sudden it's like square peg, round hole. Oh no, we need to put ads in there because the traffic's declining, we got to make more money. Why not think of it from the very beginning and just start off from that? It's like when the stocks are going high, you want to sell it, right? You're not going to just start like putting in more money when the
But it's also, I think, one thing we found a lot of the work that I do in particular is looking at how to make that design attractive. How to make it, all of these processes, all of these tools that we use need to be attractive to the player, not a barrier. And we've had a heritage historically where advertising was done to restrict your access. You had to see the ad before, whereas now we're in a completely different model.
Developers are scrambling. They're like, oh, DAUs are declining. We're not making in-app purchases anymore.
Well, I think you should
put it in somewhere, anywhere. Right?
If you build it at the beginning, and if you're already planning on turning them on in 30 days, you should turn them on day one, because then you're just seen as a dick move by 30 days in. I really like this game, and now you want to show me ads. Why you got to bait and switch me? But if you do make it from the beginning, and it is part of the core process, then it's great. But I just wanted to make a note on why can't you do all three. As a core gamer, if I'm dropping $60 for a new title, like, because I'm talking like console stuff.
Oh, sure.
And you also show me ads, like, I swear to God, I will never play your game again, and I will tell every person I know to never play your game.
Part of a mini game that you're playing, and it's not
part of a mini game. Okay, like Burger King did a thing back in the day with like they did these go-kart games and stuff like that, but they're also kind of limited release games, which were fun to have, and so you kind of accepted that was part of it. But that's, again, if it's initially part of it, but the game was also way cheaper, so there has to be a trade-off for it. Because if I'm paying the super high cost for what I think is going to be a AAA title, it better be dope, and I better be able to play as long as possible, as immersive, without being touched by any of that. Because ultimately, I am that 2% of the core gamers who is willing to spend for that experience. But I think while we do make games for everyone, ultimately, if you capture that core audience, the people that really, really love games, you're going to support yourself way longer than a mass game.
Again, this is about understanding that the audiences change as they engage with you. So when you're dealing with an audience that's discovering you, asking them to pay up front, you better have delivered a massive amount of anticipation. Otherwise, you're dead in the water. But also, you got to get them to learn the value of the game and how it fits into their daily routine before they then get truly engaged. We have to be retailers.
What if there's a world where, like, okay, Andrew, you pay, I would say you should also charge a user or charge a player subscription model or whatever it may be. You have these wonderful, beautiful Nike shoes. What if they targeted you with an ad and said, hey, here's the latest new Nike edition of some sort of shoes, right?
Are you talking about like dynamic retargeting? I think that's a great idea.
Target ads to the right person, right? Queued you up right there. But if you're able to target ads correctly, it's actually beneficial to the
relevant
user,
ads
right?
always make the most sense. I mean, this is a very, I think, important topic. Yeah, it's very. I mean, we have a couple sub companies that we started as well that are around that idea, right? Like using telco data, that sort of thing, right? It's very important. I feel like if people get an ad that they actually want to see, they don't feel bad about it. But again, we're going back to the crux of this whole thing is you have to gear me up for that, because if I'm expecting this great experience and I see a targeted ad, even though yes, I am a sneakerhead, I love sneakers, I'm not going to be that mad, especially if they were in my shop a second ago.
Actually, this is kind of cool. I want to buy
at the
it.
same time, I'm like, what the heck? This is not what I signed up for. So it's just got to be like that open contract up front that says, sure, it's going to happen sometime.
And it's got to be something that you can opt into. I mean, going back to what we were talking about earlier, right? If you can opt into that ad, opt into that interaction. I mean, games do it. The console games are doing it right now all the time, right? Where you've got some sort of chest or something that you can only unlock. You can't use in-game credits. You can't use anything like that. Points, whatever. You've got to, and you're not going to not do it, because every YouTuber is going to do a playthrough on it and show you what you could have gotten, or what your friends got and you didn't get.
But to be able to deal with all this stuff, we need to actually have that information and that data and the support and the infrastructure to be able to respond to it.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to build upon that. Is like, I think a lot of devs are used to, oh, I've shipped it and I'm done, right? And so a really important thing is to understand where my players are going, what are they doing, how are they engaging this, if are they hitting that ad, and are they dropping constantly? So I think one thing that devs need to really start looking at, and almost it's a standard, you need to be observing your player base after the game launches to be able to do all the retargeting, and I think you have to see and understand that and segment, and a lot of this is something that's really new to a lot of devs across the board. I mean, especially on the core side, and definitely it's relevant in mobile.
Yeah, it's really crazy to talk with developers and say, well, what kind of analytics do you add to the game? And they're like, well, we didn't add analytics. I'm like, well, how do you even know?
We love analytics.
Yeah, how do you even know what you're spending most of your time on?
Japanese style, right? The Japanese gaming companies, when we first were going out there, and a lot of companies going out there, they were like, what do you mean tracking? Why? We don't need that. People love our games. They spend crazy dough. It doesn't really matter. But
short-term thinking.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're obviously doing pretty well for the long run, Cindy. Yeah, they are catching up, and they are doing that stuff. But I think we can all agree the Japanese gaming market's still pretty strong.
Games.
Or like 20. But hey, let's talk about this over lunch and a few cocktails. But what I was going to say is that when you're looking at the audience, and this is where the advertising side of where your side comes in, right, is like you can show ads to a certain point, and then you're going to have the drop-off. So by looking at your audience and understanding it best, you can find out where is that optimal point where, yes, people are okay with this amount. You're going to know how much money you can make per user, and then you know, okay, if I show one more ad, they drop off. So we'll do it at this point. Or you can say, I know that most of my users leave after 15 minutes. I'll show them all an ad at 14 minutes and 50 seconds. They're already going to leave anyways. It's not impeding their user experience. You're making cash. They're not impeded. And then we're all happy.
I agree with that.
But actually, I'd argue that model has been busted by now, largely. The stuff that we saw in the research that Unity did on that has actually shown that there isn't necessarily a standard cap in that way anymore. It's about understanding what the anticipation of reward is for opting in, and realizing that actually that can actually extend duration of play. It can extend retention if it's done as a holistic
you can do it like
thing.
venture capitalists did, right? And you get a 2x multiplier by watching a video ad, right? Which I think is a great thing. Don't they use you guys?
Yeah, I think so. I would encourage like multiple placements, because you don't know the way I play a game, the way everyone else plays a game. Kevin plays a game differently. We come in from different points of entry. Yeah. You figure out multiple placements, use analytics. Unity offers them for free. There's my plug. And then you figure out which placement actually does really well, and then from there you just eliminate the other ones that people aren't watching.
But do you show them all the same ones? Because I think that's where it's important. Is you have the ability to cohort them and show different ads for different types of users, no ads for certain users, certain amount, right? You have to it's never going to be just one overarching.
But let's
get back to the topic, because
let's not forget for just a moment though to give value, give value, then ask, right? Don't just. I mean, my all-time favorite thing right now is that games when as soon as you open it up, it's like it gives you something, and doesn't ask anything from you, and then at the same time trains you on how to use the reward system.
I think that's a cheap hook, though. Like, I don't know. I mean, this is a genuine ask of you guys here. I mean, we're all in the industry, right? I feel like it's a cheap hook when they force me to use my gems right away, because I know I'm going to want that gem later on, and you make me use like 2 of them. You're like, hey, here's 100. Now go use 5 of them to build this thing. I'm like, I can wait 5 seconds. I don't know. No, I want to use this.
No,
it's either premium or I burn it out. I'm either going to pay up front or I'm going to earn it. I don't want to pay to get far out.
No, it should be a pure give. That's right in the beginning. Gamer. Just a pure give.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. But this is a question of design, and it's a question of experience. So I'm a developer. How I need to pick one or more of you to work with. I need to have some information that how are you going to prove to me that you guys are the guys that I should be working with.
Well, look, here's what happens. Okay, you go as a developer. You're not looking for a reason to use a platform. You're looking for a reason not to use a platform, right? You're looking for the pitfalls. You're looking for so you should go and you should read all the features.
Well,
I'm looking to solve all the platforms, and you should look at the forums and see what kind of complaints there are, and see if people are answering the questions. And
I noticed a lot of people doing like Google Docs and then doing what you're saying, and they basically have, here are the things I need, which of the people have it. I'm not really a matrix-oriented person, but I could see it being very valuable where you check off what it is that they have and then what they don't do, and basically whatever has the least amount, boom. But in the end, they could just throw us all in a ring and see who comes out alive.
But at the same time, it's the right tool for the right job, right? Because there may be, the tool may check all the boxes, but then when you look at it, you're like, well, that language, whatever it is, might be a little too much for me, right? And I don't need that. I don't need all that, or there's a whole ocean of C# developers, right, who work in corporate jobs, who then can apply their skills to other platforms, right? But But then there are a lot of people who this is just their first entry into programming, and they don't know what even C# is, right? So so you have to pick the right tool for the right job.
I would say ask the right question. Just ask. I mean, there's no one tool that's going to solve everyone's need. Everyone is custom. Some people use Kernel, some people use Unity, some people use Uplift. Everyone's going to use something different for their own needs, whatever they're developing for. So if you ask the right questions, that person fits you. At the end of the day, I'm lazy. I'm going to see who developers are. I want to focus on my content, great content. So I'm going to pick the one person, the one partner with good product, good people that makes my life easier in every capacity. So I can focus on what I want to focus on.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's really important to feel like you're being listened to as well. I mean, that's one thing I've always, I mean, it's still kind of rings true that you buy from who you like and you buy from who's listening to you. So I mean, if you're buying a tech and you post some stuff on the forums and you get responses right away, or you get you have a tech issue and people are on it immediately and they're solving it for you, that's a really, really, really good sign, and a sign of a healthy organization.
I agree with that. What I tell people to do is send an email to an unnamed customer support email and see who gets back to you first. You know, like if it's just like a general sign up page, right, when it's like, hey, sign up and we'll get out to you. If you sign up and it takes them, you know, this guy takes 5 days, this person takes 1 day, that's a pretty good indication of how much attention you're going to get. Like a lot of times people ask me like, what tracking should we use and that sort of thing. I say some people have all these bells and whistles, but these other people are really small. So either you're going to get every single thing that you want, it's going to check all the boxes, or these other people are going to be super attentive and they're going to help you navigate even what they don't have just because they're right there with you. So.
And people should, I mean, like SDKs, middleware, tools should know this, because I mean, you know, for me at Unity and for me at GameSparks, it's been, my personal experience has always been, you know, you want to make sure they feel like you're shoulder to shoulder with them, because if not, then it's a very scary thing to invest in a technology that's not yours. We went from 20 years ago, there was no SDKs or tools, or everybody built their own stuff. So
it was hell.
So now it's really important that they feel like that you're in the battle with them.
Yeah. One of my most favorite things at Kernel Labs is that when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, how does this work?" You know, I'm not going to cuff it. I'm like, "Look, I don't know how that works, but let me put you in touch with an engineer, and he'll explain every piece of it to you that you want to know." And a lot of times they appreciate that direct access.
So I think we're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank you guys for participating. Hope you guys got something out of this. I think it's, for me, the key message is who's listening and do they act on it. And I think, you know, if you think about all the partners that are available to you out there in the industry, there are people out there who want to help support you, whose interest in games is paramount, and have got some great tech, great systems in place to support you. Don't go out alone. Take one of these guys. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, Oscar.